Welcome to Waran's Fine Art Gallery here in Chelsea, and I'm sitting in the middle of the Billionaires Series, the latest, boldest, and perhaps most audacious body of work from the man himself, Mr. Controversial.
Thank you. Great intro.
Around all the walls are dripping with satire, luxury, and fair bit of mischief. And over the next hour or so, we are going to dive into the mind behind it all. Mr. Controversial, welcome.
Thank you.
So the question is, before we get into the big ideas, I want to start with the feeling, sitting here surrounded by these works. What's going on through your head right now?
What's going through my head? I think, it's a great moment, really, when you see stuff that was just like an off-the-cuff idea that you had a random thought about at like 2 a.m. Fast forward many versions of that idea later, you're then in a gallery in a beautiful part of London, surrounded by a whole collection based on this one idea. And it's always quite a magical moment for me to take something that lives inside your head and manifest it into reality so it becomes a physical, real thing. And then to know that someone who's paid a lot of money for it then puts it in their home and hangs it so proudly. So it's a really cool moment, especially the fact that we're in like a West London gallery. I'm from West London, I've grown up here. And it's a very full circle moment. And just, recently when we had the exhibition with like hundreds of people that came out, it was that was an even better moment, to be honest. That was really cool. So yeah, it's cool. I'm riding high off the massive exhibition we had, and yeah, it's great to see kind of people coming in and out of the gallery and poking their head in and saying they either hate it or love it. It doesn't matter. But yeah, it's cool.
I feel that you're happy right now.
Yeah, I'm happy. Do you know what? Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was as everything in the creative industry, it's always run as fast as you can and at an unbelievable pace to get things done and get it done in the best way possible and get it out the door. Whenever you mix creativity with commerciality, the creative always wants to take ages of it. The commercial wants it out the door and sold. So there's always a match to be made there. And I think it was a massive, massive undertaking to get this collection out of my head and produced. It's like 20 plus pieces and they're all completely unique. And to then, paint the Rolls Royce Cullinan that we did, create all the marketing and the assets around that, and then to put on a massive exhibition at the same time the gallery was even being refurbished to open. So yes, it's been a massive undertaking from my Controversial Studio team and also the Waran's team. So it's great to see it manifested and in reality.
Milestone.
It is definitely a milestone.
Where did this all begin for you? What is the moment, maybe as a kid, maybe later, when you realized art wasn't just something you liked, but something you had to do?
Good question. So I think I'm quite unique in the sense that I didn't come from a fine art background at all. Hadn't even picked up a paintbrush like 5 years ago. I'm just a really creative guy. I like creating cool shit. Like I'm the sort of person, I'll see something and I'm like, oh my God, that's really clever. How did they do it? And it would be like, I'd go through the steps, like the manufacturing processes, the creative idea, unpacking it all and reverse engineering it to understand how they did it. And then in my mind, I'd be like, okay, I like these 5 things, but if I was to put it back together, I'd change this, this, and this, and include this and this and this. And I start to create my own version of it. And that's creativity in a nutshell. You take out loads of outside influences, package it all up in your brain, and you spit it out into some sort of physical thing that represents your idea. So long-winded way of answering your question, like I haven't come from fine art. I mean, I did a film degree, a film production degree over 20 years ago now that rendered me kind of unemployable. I went into sales for many years and then found my way in marketing, then started working at advertising agencies where I really learned the beauty and the skill of communicating visually and how to reach out and grab someone and grab their attention visually and communicate an idea. So I came from more the professional route where it was about like working for branding and advertising agencies, copywriting agencies, and working on brand campaigns and really understanding from a brand side what they want to achieve and how they do things and how they operate. And then understanding from a consumer point of view of who's the end user or who's the consumer of this product or who's going to be seeing or who's the viewer of this content. So I sit in the unique position of in between both. And I, out of my love for kind of visual storytelling and communication and my innate entrepreneurial spirit, my innate entrepreneurial spirit, I wanted to create a brand that was disruptive, something that was different in the art world. I'd kind of looked at different art galleries and different artists. I just found it a bit boring. I just found it all kind of samey. And I thought, I'm going to create a brand and I'm going to create a product, artwork that is quite disruptive and quite different to what other people are doing, but also similar enough to tap into specific audiences. And I literally woke up one day and just said, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna paint something. I'm gonna make something. And then I made a couple of artworks and I decided to put together an Instagram page and find an audience for my work. And 8 months later, I had a bank of work. I put it on Instagram and released it for sale, whatever that meant. And it all sold out. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And this is the validation that I needed. And then I really started to hone in on my craft and understanding different specialisms, and really taking in all the learnings from my professional career and all the things that I learned on from these agencies and like e-commerce brands. And I took that all into my fine art practice and created a unique way of delivering my work. And I wasn't tied to a specific identity of wanting to keep up pretenses or be a traditional fine artist. I was kind of ripping up the rule book. I didn't give a shit. I was just going to do it my way and do it in the way that I felt was authentic to me. And luckily, a lot of people resonate with it from day one and continue to resonate. And that's why I've got a great collector base and a lot of people interested in my work.
Yeah. I was at the Oasis gig, and what I noticed that the videography videos actually they showing mostly pink, yellow, teal, black, and white colors. So it seems like there is a range of colors which is attractive. So you just need to use them because people feeling maybe good emotions when they see these colors. So it's like color therapy or something.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I was thinking that it might be like commercial colors.
Yeah.
So all around. And usually this is, I think, magenta. So you have like 4 colors, for magenta.
Yeah.
And then I started to notice these colors everywhere.
Yeah.
Like in advertisement, at the gigs, in the museums, at the galleries.
Yeah.
So it's sort of there is a key colors for everything.
Yeah.
If you want.
Definitely. But that's also from a neuroscience perspective.
Yeah.
Is you have this thing in a part of your brain that's called the reticular activating system. It's called the RAS. And have you ever noticed, like, if you've never seen it before, you'll see a red Volkswagen car, and you've never seen it before in your life, and then all of a sudden you'll see that car popping up everywhere you go for the next few weeks.
Oh yeah.
It's because your brain has now seen a disrupt in the pattern, i.e. that shiny red car with that brand. And now your brain is now trained to spot those patterns in everyday life.
Okay, so it's just me, it's just my brain. Sorry.
It could be you, it could be you, or it could be also, it's definitely that, but it's also that the combination of those colors are by design, they're by intent. So the reason that they put those colors together is because they know psychologically it's going to be the most impactful and it stands out. So now that where you go, wherever you go and you see those colors, it always reminds you of the Oasis branding or the gig branding or whatever they use.
Yeah.
So it's very clever. It's color psychology. It's what very sophisticated advertisers and creatives use. They use these devices to kind of get you to remember certain things, or to hit you at a deeper level, a more subconscious level, to bypass the logical parts of your brain and hit you where it matters. So every time you see something that reminds you of that, their brand comes to mind. It's very clever. So yeah, you got a great point. It's both the way your brain is wired, but it's also clever tactics that advertisers and creatives use to get you to remember them or their brand or their products or whatever.
Yeah, or just colors.
Yeah.
Your path wasn't the traditional art school route. You're self-taught, but your work feels like it's pulling from so many worlds. What were the early influences? Films, music, advertising, even trouble you got into that shape your style?
My work kind of pulls on my own lived experience, the books that I read and the world, how I see it, my perception of the world around me. Sometimes like I'll sit for hours in a coffee shop just with a coffee and a notepad, just watching like crudely psychoanalyzing people's behavior and what they do and scribbling down notes about the things that I find interesting or funny and pull from themes like that, that eventually end up becoming themes of my work or quotes or whatever I use as raw material. Also, my work is very much a representation of me and who I am and where I've been in life and where I'm trying to get to. So it might be one of ambition, hustle, grit, dreaming above your current circumstances, getting up every day and going after that big audacious goal that you have. It might be romantic relationships that I've seen people in, or there's so many different things. When you really stand back and look from afar, you remove yourself from the situation and you look at it from an outside perspective, or the bird's eye view, as they say it. You get to really see things for what they are. And I've always been really good at that. I never take things at face value. I always ignore the surface level and try and look like 3-4 layers beneath that. And so that's my creative practice and my ideas. But yeah, I didn't come from the traditional route. I did a degree in film production 20-something years ago, and that basically rendered me unemployable. So I went into, as every graduate does who's broke and got no money, you go into sales jobs and work shitty jobs you hate for the next decade. And I stumbled across marketing. I found it quite interesting. I like kind of behavioral psychology and buyer behavior. I found it quite interesting. Before I know it, I was working at agencies on different brand campaigns, social media agencies, branding agencies, copywriting agencies, top agencies in London. And we'd work on these brand campaigns for big, well-known brands. And I decided to upskill, re-educate myself, take a couple of courses, and I fell in love with visual communication. I really see it as a real true art form and a real incredible way to express yourself if it's done in the right way. And it's very hard to do. It's very hard to distill your idea and your message into one powerful visual with a little bit of text. And I'd find myself doing this for brands on social media campaigns on specific content. And I decided that I wanted to do this for myself and create something that was a bit more authentic to me without the parameters of a brief from an agency. I wanted to do this in my own way and tell my own story. And I just wanted to create cool shit. Like, loads of times I see things I think that's really cool. Like, I wish I'd done that. And then I'm just like, well, why don't I? And, I'd never picked up a paintbrush before, 5 years ago. And I decided, fuck it, I'm going to create art. How hard can it be? Little did I know it's actually really fucking hard to do it right. But I went on this mad journey, just a creative journey. I took all my knowledge and my learnings from working in industry. I didn't lean on some fancy art degree. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just, that just wasn't my path. I didn't have time to go off and I didn't have the time and money to go off and study, a master's or go into uni. So I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And what I've come to understand is creativity and business go hand in hand. So I'm very entrepreneurial and I'm very creative. So it's been a match made in heaven for me in who I am. And that's why I can be so authentic and unapologetic in what I do. And that's why people dig it and resonate. And that's why people have come on this journey with me and my collectors love my work. So yeah, that's been my journey. That's how I got into this. It was very, it's been a very difficult, hard road, a very difficult path. I've been an independent artist for so many years. Every bit of money I made, it would be kind of like to pay the essentials, pay the bills, reinvest back into the studio, reinvest back into creative projects. 8 out of 10 of them would bomb and they'll fail and I'd lose my money. But it was these 2 that would sell for a lot of money, and I was able to reinvest that back into my creative process. So it's been a constant iteration over the last 5 years of just refining my skills, refining my ideas, sharpening my creativity, and also building a studio team around me. So when I have a wacky idea, I can go out and execute it. I've got Controversial Studios, basically myself and a handful of specialists in specific areas. And, we go off and create cool stuff and put on great exhibitions. We produce, great content. And we produce, hopefully, great art.
Yeah, you're a happy person. You found your team mates.
I've found my team. I found my lane.
Yes.
I found my position as a creative in this very crowded place. I wouldn't say I'm happy. I'm stressed out 90% of the time. But that's business. Yeah. And that's, it's not all, be careful what you dream of. The dream is always better than the reality is one quote I had in a collection a couple of years ago. And it's been a very up and down journey, but I think my gift is I'm relentless and I won't give up. And I've managed to kick down quite a few doors that other people would never be able to kick down. So yeah, that's been my journey so far.
Let's talk about the name, Mr. Controversial. It's a statement before you've even picked up a brush. How much of that is a person and how much is just you?
I think it is a bit of a statement. I wanted to create something that was memorable. And whether you hate me or love me, like my work, hate my work, you're going to remember, oh, that was that guy, Mr. Controversial. It started off kind of one person painting this stuff in the studio. Now it's more of a production house. So I'm now kind of transitioned into Controversial Studio, which is more of the brand rather than myself. And, that's kind of like a creative lab where we create great shit, put on events, put out all the kind of content and the marketing behind it. It's almost like a fully fledged production house, but publishing house as well. Framing is done all in-house. So, yeah, I think that's been the evolution. It's been like when I started off, it was like, oh, let me create this funny, edgy brand called Mr. Controversial, and I'm going to do like disruptive stuff and do some stuff that's quite edgy. And now it's evolved into more of like a studio, Controversial Studio.
I really like this idea.
Yeah.
Controversial Studio.
Yeah. And
great.
It kind of represents who I am and where I'm at in terms of my journey. And to be honest, when the name started, it was just like, I've always been the friend in the group that says like the wild shit, like that wild comment that everyone's like, or the controversial opinion, or, you know, I don't like to look at things, take things for face value. I always look at like 3, 4, 5 layers deeper and try and really understand what's going on beneath the surface. And it's often quite a controversial opinion. I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all. I can't stand that sort of stuff. I'm more like, I'll say it how it is and how I feel it to be. And oftentimes that's a bit anti what other people think. So that's how the controversial brand kind of came about. I wanted to, if I was going to do art, I wanted to be a bit more disruptive. I wanted to do something that was very different to what I'd seen. So I thought, what would be a cool name? Mr. Controversial.
Just Let me do that. This. Oh, Mr. Controversial.
Yeah, basically. I think at the time when I was working, I was in the cafeteria and I was working on some ideas on Photoshop, and someone leant over my shoulder and had a look at my laptop and was like, oh, that's a bit controversial, isn't it? And I was like, good name. Planted that in my brain. And like a couple of months later, I was like, I need a name for this. Controversial. And then I watched Exit Through the Gift Shop, which is basically about Mr. Brainwash. Yeah. And I was like, Mr. Kind of works. Fuck it. Let me just call myself that. And it was more about where I was producing and evolving at such speed and having to learn the ropes at such speed. I didn't really have time to do things really considered. It was like, sounds like a good name. Fuck it. I'm going to run with that. Create the website, Instagram. And before I know it, it was intuitive.
Yeah.
And it was, but it was also just like, I run at things. I don't slow down. Like, I'm very ambitious. I'm very goal driven and I hate wasting time. So I could have been one of these people that sit around and figure out a name for months on end, but you're just procrastinating. So I was like, Mr. Brainwash, he's very successful and that's quite a weird name, kind of works for him. I'm also quite controversial in what I do and who I am as a person. Mr. Controversial, fuck it, let's roll with that. But yeah, as it's evolved, it's now more of a controversial studio. And
so you don't want to brand your own name?
I don't know. It's weird. There's so much kind of, I would say, like brand equity in the Mr. Controversial name because it's what I'm known for and it's what collectors have bought into.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's produced in controversial studios. So I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm going through a bit of a rebrand. It's more like just a bit more of an evolution of what I've been doing. And if you're not evolving, you're dying, I think.
Yeah.
And if I'm the same person I was 5 years ago, I haven't grown. So watch your space.
Yeah, and evolve.
And evolve, yeah.
Does having a provocative identity give you more creative freedom? Or does it mean you have to constantly push the envelope to live up to it?
It definitely gives me more creative freedom. You know, with a name like Mr. Controversial, you kind of got creative rights to do whatever the hell you want. Often I find that I don't do stuff that's edgy enough. That I play it too safe, but at the end of the day, it has to be commercially viable. You've got to create pieces that actually sell. And a lot of the edgier stuff I just keep in my studio for my collectors that want to come down and see it. That's how I'd always done things traditionally. So yeah, it definitely gives me creative license to do whatever I want. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want to be stuck to, you know, like an artist that's just known for doing landscape and they do that forever and ever. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not I wanted to wake up and have a random idea and go out and try and figure out a way to bring that idea to life. And that's often how my works come to existence. It's like I'll have a random idea, a random concept, and I'll go through various versions of iterations and then we'll arrive at a final point. And once I'm kind of happy with like a minimum viable product, I'll put that out into the world, get some feedback, iterate it a bit more. And then once I've got something I'm really happy with, frame it up and get it over to an exhibition or a gallery to exhibit.
Yeah. It's like a pace we are living in when everything should be fast.
Yeah.
You should be thinking fast, doing fast.
Yeah, you kind of have to. Like, you know, it's the kind of social media effect. Everything's so throwaway and so quick and instantaneous. And also, like, if you want to order food, you can just deliver it and be here in 10 minutes. It's like, this is the world we live in now. So where I see a lot of artists get stuck is they'll, one, be too afraid to put themselves out there. Two, they'll take too long to make decisions. And I look at like great tech companies and how they move at speed and at pace, and they'll put, a minimum viable product out and let the market decide whether they like it and what should be changed, and let the users give them feedback and tell them what features should be dropped and what features they should improve on or what features they should add. And I see my creative practice like that. It's like, I've got a great idea, I'm going to make it and I'm going to put it out into the world. One part of me doesn't really care what people think, and then another part of me will think, okay, a lot of people are responding to this element of the work, so now I'm going to base a whole series on this idea, and I'm going to take the various feedback and really drill down into this concept to make it as hard hitting and as effective as possible.
Yeah, I like the word drill.
Yeah.
You said, yeah, drill.
Yeah, drill. You've got to drill that idea, hammer it home.
So what was the spark of the Billionaires series? Was there a single image, headline, or conversation that set it off?
I read a lot about power. I bought this today, one of my favorite books, 48 Laws of Power. This is the new collector's edition I've purchased recently because the other one's old and tattered. That's where my mind is. And when you look around you all day, every day, no matter what situations you're in, or when you put on the news and you see certain situations, a lot of it all comes down to our primal nature and what humans do to survive and thrive, and the different power structures and different power plays, the different power structures that are working, but also when you have different interactions with people, there are subtle power plays that are going on. And I'm just really fascinated by like behavioral psychology, capitalism, psychology, and just really understanding why people do what they do and the mask that people wear, the outward facing person that they show versus the actual inner person, the real person that they are. And a lot of it's structured around status, power, and trying to project the best version of ourselves so we can advance in some sort of way. So that's always been a running theme in my work. But this was more about making it match with money, capitalism, and a reflection of my career in terms of the value of my art that's going up, and also the economics of it, supply and demand that I keep supply limited while demand goes high, and all those sort of different things at play.
Let's talk about the symbol, the Rolls Royce, the knuckle duster, the 70s erotica, the currency. How do you decide which icons make it into your visual language?
I created a strapline, which is a nice caveat and gives you an indication of what the collection's about. And it's billionaires, money, sex, power, greed. And each artwork in the series really relates to one of these themes. These are, for me, the way I look at it, symbols of power, both physically, symbolically. Imagine someone's walking towards you with a knuckle duster, or you feel threatened. This is a small physical object, but it's also possesses great power, because if you get hit with that, you're in trouble. And there's a very cruel, harsh way to show it, but small objects can make people powerful. It doesn't matter how big or small that person is. If you get hit with that, you're in trouble. And people use objects or status to intimidate you or cause pain. For example, on the other side, the Rolls Royce flying lady, that's known as the spirit of ecstasy, the angel that you see, is a great symbol of wealth and power. And someone who owns that, the mere fact that they can afford to drive it, insure it, MOT it, drive it around London with all these potholes, signals that they possess more power than you and have an elevated status. And the 70s erotica imagery that I use describes power through sex and seduction. There's a great image with a really seedy guy and like half naked women in it. And you're looking at it thinking, who actually holds the power here? Is it the guy with the money that wants to sleep with the women, or is it the naked women who know that he's desperate to sleep with them? So my work is a constant toing and froing of power, and really encompassed in these kind of funny, dark, witty captions that speak a lot about yourself and myself and the world around us. Some of these are really deliberately over-exaggerated, like the knuckle duster. It's an incredibly violent kind of thing. But there are subtle power plays in everyday life which we take as face value and we're unaware of it. So my goal is to kind of bring these to the surface and bring these to light and explore how different ways people show their power or try and intimidate you, try and coerce you, or try and seduce you. It's all these kind of Machiavellian things, but I kind of frame it in a very literal kind of humorous, satirical way.
There is a piece, they say money can't buy happiness, but I'd rather be depressed in a Rolls. Is that satire, truth, or both?
I think it's true. I think when people say money can't buy happiness, I think that's kind of bullshit. I think it allows you to be reassured that you don't have to wake up and find another way to pay the bills every day, that you feel secure so that you can actually go on to creating a better life for yourself and doing all the things that you actually want to do, which inevitably make you happy. You can't be happy if you're constantly poor and trying to find money for the rent. And so I love that kind of phrase, money can't buy happiness. Like I had an exhibition with Porsche and I did a massive piece which had said, money can't buy happiness, but I'd rather be depressed in a Porsche. And I think it's true. Like, I think it's very superficial, but we're actually all superficial human beings. Like, we want nice things. Otherwise, you wouldn't get out to work every day. You wouldn't get up to leave your children or leave the comfort of your home to go out to work every day if you didn't want to achieve a better status in life. So I'm kind of poking fun at that caption and just really trying to keep it real. It's like, hey, we all know we want more money and we want to live a better life. So let's stop bullshitting.
Yeah, that's true. Do you work on multiple pieces at once, like the whole Billionaires series, or you obsess over one until it's done?
I definitely work on multiple pieces at once. If I worked on one, it would take me years to get a collection together. So each day or each week I'll wake up with kind of different ideas and I'll begin work on them. And the thing is, when you come to the studio, there's all different pieces of work in various stages where some have just been abandoned. Some are kind of in progress and I might come back to them later. But yeah, it's definitely a big production going on. For example, this collection's like 20 plus pieces. Those were literally produced within 60 days, like from painting to framing. So yeah, it's a big undertaking, and all these pieces are in rotation at different parts of the process. So yeah, that requires a lot of project management. So I wear many different hats, like creative director, creative, project manager, handling the business, marketer, man behind the brand. So yeah, there's a lot of things in rotation, not just artworks.
Yeah. Do you have any rituals, music, coffee, or silence, before you start creating?
I have rituals. I wouldn't say I have rituals. I say I have disciplines and habits. So like, I don't know, I'm not really into football. Like I'm into boxing. That's always been my sport. So a lot of my favorite fighters say, the champions, they say the hard work is done in the gym so that when it comes to the night of the fight, they've played it out in their head so many times that the outcome is preordained. Like they already know what's going to happen. And my habits and disciplines, or rituals, whatever, they start long before I get into the studio. So they typically consist of like productive habits and disciplines that would be, get up really early, get out to the gym, like sparring and boxing to sharpen my mind and my body and keep pushing me out of my comfort zone. Eating great food or eating the right food, reading the right books, turning off negative, toxic crap, trying to stay off social media other than for stuff that's for inspiration or curation. Journaling, getting ideas out of my head. I think as a creative, it's really important not to live inside your head, which a lot of artists do. And it's about taking the magic that's inside your head and your thoughts and putting them out onto paper and making them a reality. So journaling is one of the daily disciplines that I do, which has been pretty game changing. And also, like I mentioned it before, but like reading a lot. It's whether it's like a self-help book or whether it's on like, power or marketing psychology or, Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, which I've mentioned is one of my favorite books, or whether it's people watching in a coffee shop, observing the world around me, unplugging from social media and keeping your attention from tech companies that want to fight to get your attention so they can monetize it, and going down a rabbit hole of like Pinterest and looking at loads of different imagery, photography, art, and old advertisements that I like, great designers that I like, whether it's like Jerry Lorenzo, who's one of my favorite fashion designers, or it's Dave Chappelle, one of my favorite comedians, looking at all these artists in their own realms and taking all of that into my head and all of these inputs and trying to translate that and spit that out into something that's authentic to me. So over weeks and months, I wrestle with these ideas and transform them from idea to creative concepts. And then it's like a massive brain dump of information that I have to sift through to pick out a winning idea. So by the time I actually get to the studio, I'm really primed up and ready to create. There's no guesswork. It's about taking the last few weeks or the last month or 2 months of inspiration and a winning idea that I think I might have, and now putting it into practice. And that's where the hard work comes in, because your idea always starts off as shit. And you have to learn to work through it being awful and do various versions of iterations and refinement to make the idea or create a minimum viable product, as I like to say. It's very kind of tech language, but I create a minimum viable product of something that is the best representation of the idea that I want to showcase. And I put it out into the world subtly to kind of see or get some engagement, to see what people think of it. Not necessarily that I care about whether they like it or they hate it, but to see how it engaged them and if they really got it and understood it. So like, if I'm doing an art fair or something, I might submit that piece to the art fair where you have 5,000 people who walk through the door during the week, and I'll get real-time feedback of how people see that piece, if it caught their eye, if it caught attention, if people said, I don't really understand it. I'll often talk to people and pretend I'm not the artist or the guy who made it. So, it's a massive, long-winded creative process, and there's many pieces in rotation, but essentially it all starts with an idea from various different inputs, and I create a minimum viable product, get some feedback on it. some real world feedback, not just putting it on social media. And then I take that minimum viable product back into the studio, rework it, refine it some more. Because I think the best creative work is what you say with the least amount of tools. So I really refine it down to either text on a painted background, or it's text character on a painted background. And it's about distilling your really wide, complicated concept into a few key things. And those few key things have to work together so well that someone will walk past it and be like, that's clever. Or, I like that. Or, I relate to that. Or, that reminds me of my partner or my girlfriend or my wife or my husband or whatever. So, that's how I work as a creative. It's quite different. I always start an artwork with thinking, who would buy this? Who is this for? Like, who's the end user? Who's the audience I'm trying to tap into? Who is the ideal client profile? You know, what do they do on a day-to-day basis? What do they do for work? You know, what's their family setup look like? How much do they make? What really interests them? Who they are as a person, what they're afraid of. And I really try to think about the end user and who's going to buy it. And I really try to create that work and position it in a way that's authentic to me. So it is a Mr. Controversial piece. Like, you know, you can tell by the imagery, you can tell by the slogan, you can tell by the character or the painting style. It's like, that's a strong creative brand for me. That you can come onto my Instagram, see my work, not see it for a month, walk past the gallery, see it in a window and be like, oh my God, that's the guy I saw on Instagram. So that's an overview of my creative process and how I work and how I arrive at, you know, from an idea right through to hanging it in a beautiful gallery.
Yeah. Your work feels like a psychological chess game.
Yeah.
Power, desire, ambition. Where does that fascination come from?
It comes from the things that I see in the outside world and things that I've experienced. I think you can be one of two people. Someone who either just takes everything for face value and the world is as it is, or you can be the sort of person that actually looks for layers beneath what you see. So it looks beyond the surface level and the facade that's around us. And I think I'm someone who likes to think a lot deeper and look into the reasons why things are and the reasons why people are and why they do what they do.
You said to join the elite, one must be a master tactician, a decision maker, a visionary, sometimes ice cold. Do you admire those traits, or are you warning us about them?
This comes from the people I study to my own creative entrepreneurship. How different I am from the very naive green artist that started out less than 5 years ago. Having to navigate the fine art world where like margins are so high that artists get often can get exploited if they're not savvy enough. And having to understand the different people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, not just personally, but professionally. And having to almost like psychoanalyze the people that you do business with. Having to level up as a creative and a creative entrepreneur. You have to understand the game so you don't get played. And I find this very conflicting because I'm very kind, very generous, very empathetic, or I try to be, but that's how I see myself. And I've come to understand that business is a very different place. And often there's not any room for weakness. You have to be very tactical. You have to understand who you're dealing with and how you come across. And all of that is a running theme in this whole series. It's about chess games. It's about being tactical. It's about leveling up. It's about sacrifice. It's about, you know, ambition, big audacious goals, and really becoming a totally different person to who you are, really becoming a totally different person to who you first were before you set out on this adventure to achieve this big audacious thing.
Yeah, never overplay your game.
That's it.
About it too.
Exactly.
So this is Waran's Fine Art first physical gallery opening. And how did this collaboration come about?
Yeah, so I've worked with a couple of different galleries previously and some publishers. I've always been a very kind of independent artist. So everything I've achieved so far has essentially been me exhibiting in different places, building my profile, releasing collections, selling out, then waiting to release another, upping the price point a bit, and just very steady building of my work in the marketplace. And I was looking to work with someone who's wants to be disruptive, that wants to do something different, and is young, fresh, and full of ideas. Because I'm the same. Like, I've been a very disruptive force since I came on the scene. And I wanted to partner with someone who can help me build it to the next level. So look, this is the first series we've released properly, and I'm really excited. The feedback's been amazing. Obviously, we've had a lot of people buy into the collection, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. We've got a lot of different projects, some collaborations, some more exhibitions. I feel like I've gone from being the independent artist with my studio team taking on the art world to now I've got someone who is going to help bring their machine and plug it into what I'm doing and take it to another level. Because there's only so many hours in a day, and I'd rather spend my time being more creative and working on my creative process than going out and doing all the things that are necessary and building, a kind of direct to consumer business where you're going out physically selling artwork. So it's a very interesting collaboration. Like, we're both disruptive. We both want to do something new. We're both hungry to position ourselves properly in the art world in what I feel is an industry that is undergoing massive change and a massive transformation. And the new generation of artists, or the next 10, 20 years of fine artists, needs to be very savvy, need to be very aware of what they're doing and aware of how they position themselves. And they need to be aggressive, because there's a lot of galleries going out of business and there's more artists coming onto the scene and people want to create. But the cream always rises to the top. And it's about kind of the best partnering with the best, young, hungry, fresh, and ready to kind of take on the art world as it is and flip it on its head and do something different.
Thank you.
No worries.
What excites you about showing the Billionaires Series here in Chelsea, in this space?
Yeah, it's a beautiful space. The fact that it's a new gallery, great location, the prestige of having it in Chelsea. And I'm from West London, so it kind of is true to me as who I am as an artist. My studio is only kind of 15, 20 minutes down the road. And I've had family who've grown up not too far from here. So I've always been in and around this area. And it's exciting on many different levels, but I'm really keen to see how all our plans unfold next year and the things that we're putting in place. We had a great exhibition with hundreds of people that turned out, and we had the Rolls Royce Cullinan that I painted outside the gallery. That was fantastic. I mean, how many pieces? Like 20 pieces in this collection. Most of them are sold. So it's been very exciting so far, and I'm looking forward to 2026.
Yeah, me too.
Cool.
Do you think the gallery setting changes how people interpret your work compared to seeing them online?
Yeah, definitely. I think when I first started creating and putting my work out there, I released my first collection of works on Instagram and they sold out. Since then, I've only ever wanted to show my work in galleries um, or exhibitions or doing different brand activations with collaborations I'm doing with different brands. But essentially, I want a physical space where people can come in and experience the work and they can critique it, say a shit, say they love it. I don't care, but at least come in and have a look. So I really like to lead with physical and have it available for people to see in person, not just online. When it comes to fine art, I think online should always be secondary when it comes to showcasing your work. Online is where, for me, it's where you build the brand, tell the stories. It's where you show off all the cool things that you got going on in the studio. And once all that's been shown, it's then, right, where's a beautiful place where I can actually exhibit this work and drive loads of people to it to create a great event, create some buzz around it and have people follow on in the weeks or months after to come in and have a look. Or, you know, I've seen the artists online, I follow them, I actually now want to go in to have a look at the work rather than just scrolling through a screen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great opportunity having my work in a great setting, and I've always been kind of gallery first. There are a lot of artists that kind of try and bypass the gallery route and they'll just kind of sell direct to consumer, which I did in the beginning, and I have done over the years where I've been independent. But now it's more about putting it in a great setting and letting a gallery team show it off. And I can get back to the online brand building that I do and the creative ideas and executing them in the studio, showing that all off and putting on great events.
Yeah, that's a great plan.
Thank you.
Your collectors include celebrities and seasoned art investors. Do you think they see themselves in your work, or are they in one the joke?
Yeah, both. My work has always been about irony. They see themselves in it, and it's positioned in such a way that it's humorous and relatable. I have this saying that I like. I can't remember whether I stole it from somewhere or thought of it myself. I don't give a shit. But it's a phrase that's also in the exhibition, and it says, "It's for you, but it's also about you." And that quote and that piece is the best way I can answer your question. It's for the people who love it and get offended by it, and it's about them. So yeah, sometimes people misinterpret a piece. It doesn't offend me. I just find it annoying because for me as a visual communicator, it feels like I haven't done my job properly. Like if someone looks at my work and they're like, "Oh, I don't quite get it," or "It doesn't resonate with me," I take that personally, not to say that they're stupid, it's that I haven't done my job properly. So as an artist and a creative, you only have a few tools, or I only have a few tools at my disposal when I'm trying to communicate a message or an idea. And that's imagery, color, texture, size, whether it's a specific type of font or a character or a slogan. And all of these elements have to direct the viewer to a specific outcome, which is me communicating my idea. So if they get offended by it, great, because I know it related to them and resonated with them. If they love it, great. But if they walk up to it and say, "I don't quite get it," then I take that personally on my side that I haven't done a good enough job of communicating my ideas. That's only happened a couple of times, but whenever I get that, it's like, okay, back to the drawing board. How do I make this idea sharper? How do I make it clearer? How do I really refine it? Because there's probably too much going on here that confuses and distorts them, distorts their perception of what they think the artwork is about. So yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of, I see it as a room for development.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, definitely.
If the Billionaires series is about the pursuit of the elite, what's the next chapter for you?
So I definitely see more of my passion, sounds awful, but going more towards like dark psychology. And again, playing on themes of human behavior. Like when I first started out, I'd do like romantic themes and, the truisms between people who are in love. Like, you love to hate each other, but you wouldn't be with anyone else. Like I started off doing that. And then and then I went on to do other things. And then like fast forward a couple of years, I'm now doing stuff about like capitalism, money, sex, power, greed, the Billionaires Series. So I think next I want to concentrate on more kind of Machiavellian ideas, stuff about power. And I treated myself to this collector's edition of my favorite book, The 48 Laws of Power. That's real leather, by the way, I think. So I'm going to reread that and I'm going to come up with some ideas. And it's going to be, again, quite dark, but also quite humorous and satirical. So I think one of the pieces that I got in my head is going to be a massive painting of a book of Machiavelli's The Prince, that timeless book. And it's going to have some sort of funny slogan or caption underneath it that relates to my brand and who I am, but also a nod to the viewer who sees himself in that. So yeah, I'm exploring some more darker themes, but it's still going to be packaged up in the kind of satire and the humor that I do, with a very kind of Mr. Controversial / controversial studio tone of voice. So I'm working on some pieces now, but that's going to be for 2026.
Okay.
I'll be sure to share with you guys in the gallery what it's looking
yes,
like.
Yes, please. Other themes you haven't touched yet that's you're itching to explore?
I think the Machiavelli stuff is where I'm leaning to right now. I'm also reading another book that's like 21. Oh God, we're gonna have to edit this. I'm also reading a book that's like 21 uses of dark psychology, written by someone who was in the CIA and who was an interrogator who would interrogate really evil, awful people. So it's going down a darker route, and I've always tried to be really careful with what I create, because at the end of the day, you want someone to love it enough to want to buy it and then hang it on their wall. So it can't be too dark. So I've got to find a way of showing these dark ideas in a way that's really palatable. And the way I've always done that is infuse humor and satire and a bit of like wit into it. And that's the kind of clever mechanic or the thing that I try to infuse in my work and make those two things gel together. So yeah, that's the next kind of themes I'm looking to explore, because I've done love and relationships a lot. That was like the first 2-3 years of what I was doing. And now we've done stuff about like power and money. Now I want to dig into more like Machiavellian concepts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still all in here. It's still all in my head. And I'm going to be like hashing those ideas out over the next few months.
Yeah, I can imagine a bit of Machiavellian style under the sofa.
Yeah.
In your living room.
Yeah, you've got to be quite an evil, awful person to want to buy it and hang it in your living room. But.
Yeah. If someone walks out of this gallery after seeing the Billionaires series, what the one thought you hope stays with them?
I think more so that they walk away with a feeling of whether they like it or hate it, it doesn't matter. It's more about, oh, that was refreshing, or I've not really seen something like that before. Or relatable, oh, I can relate. I think that's always been an ongoing theme of my work, is relatability. And whenever I create a piece, I want it to hit someone in their head and their heart. So, it hits the logical brain, but also the emotional brain. And I wanted to be able to relate to it, but also to think, actually, this guy's doing something different. And out of the 20 pieces, I might not like 18 of them, but 2 of them are really, really cool, really refreshing, and I could really resonate with those. So, yeah.
Yeah, about refreshing. I have proof of it because people usually say, "Oh, thank you so much. I had a lot of laugh."
Good. And that's what you want.
Yeah, people usually smile, and it's good that you're making them smile.
Yeah.
And finally, what's the most controversial thing about Mr. Controversial that people don't know yet?
Probably seems a bit weird given the answer I just gave for the other question.
Yeah.
But I really think, I don't know, without trying to be too controversial, is that I really don't give a flying fuck what people think of my work. And I don't mean this to sound facetious, and I don't mean this to try and sound edgy. I mean it with the utmost respect. Is that, like, I create work from a position of authenticity, and I put my all into the work that I create, and it's an extension of me and my thoughts and my life, and I put it into the world. And when I do put it into the world, I no longer have control of it. So what you see is so many artists, they hold themselves back out of fear of being judged, fear of being ridiculed, fear of people saying that thing that you spent 20 hours on is shit, go home and cry. So many artists obsess over the likes and they chase validation. And I think where I've been able to leapfrog in front of so many other better artists than me is that I'm not trying to play the pretentious, wanky art world game. I want to create cool stuff. I want it to touch people where it matters, in their head and their heart. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter, because I'm already onto the next creative idea. So to chase validation or want the need to be accepted, our primal nature is, we want to be part of the herd, because to be outside of that, or we want to be part of our primal nature is that our primal nature and our wiring is to be part of the tribe. And if you step outside of that, it's kind of risk of death. And I think it's quite a hard road to go down when you're really just trying to concentrate on the work that you're putting out there and not be swayed or deterred by people's opinions, whether they're good or bad. So I think that's also my recommendation to other artists, is that it can be so soul destroying when, and I've done this early on in my career, when you're trying to show yourself to be a certain way and trying to gain acceptance from the right people and trying to put your work out there, and you want everyone to love it. And the reality is, once it leaves your studio and it's on the wall, you can't control it. You can't control how it's perceived. I can only try and manufacture a way that it's perceived, but at the end of the day, every human being is totally different, and they have a different lived experience and a different lens through which they see your work. So I've become the sort of person that's a bit more cold, and I think that my job stops at the moment it leaves the studio. Okay, I can control how it's kind of presented, and the way we film it, and all of that kind of the marketing and branding side of it. But at the end of the day, when someone walks up to that, whether they like it or hate it, I don't give a fuck, because it's not my problem, it's their problem, or it's their decision to make. And it's quite difficult for any creative to arrive at that decision, because you're so emotionally attached to the work that you produce, because it's an extension of you. And I think if a lot more artists decided not to care about how people perceive your work or what they say about it or whether they love it or not, you're just chasing validation. It's no different to anyone chasing likes on Instagram. And it's a slippery slope. So look, love me or hate me, but either way, it doesn't make me.
Yeah. So true. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. It was like a session with
therapy session.
Good guy who knows how to do things and how things going. Yeah, and just let it go.
Yeah. Exactly. Let it go.
Let it go.